Okay, now that we're back, we have our updates and our upgrades done. So now we're going to look at a few things such as changing the computer name, changing the username, and the root account. So first of all, we need to log in, and we've got an account called user1. So we log in as user1 with our password, and we're logged in as, again, a standard user. So we're going to go sudo. Well, in fact, if we want to look and see what the host name is, we simply type in host name, and it says Ubuntu 1. If we want to change the host name, we have various ways of doing it. One of the newer commands in Ubuntu is hostname ctl. And you can see here that says static hostname Ubuntu 1, icon computer-vm, chassis, machine, root, virtualization oracle, because we're running this in VirtualBox, etc. So we're getting all the information back about the host name. Okay, so our next step is going to be permanently changing the name of the computer. Now there's a couple of ways we can do this, but if we actually first of all look and see where is the computer name actually stored. So if we go sudo nano, and again it's up to yourself whether you use nano, pico, or vi. Nano is a user-friendly editor as such. So nano, and we need to specify the path to where our hostname files are. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is there are two files that we need to look at. One is host and the host file and the host name file. So if we go etc and we type in host, oops, not typing, so nano etc /host, and if we type in host and hit your tab key, it's the wrong path actually, so my apologies. So when you're going to edit a file, you need to specify the path to the location of the file itself. So in our case, we are currently in the home directory. We could switch to the other directory, but if we go sudo nano /etc in a folder, and in there we have various files. And again, I'm not typing, so my apologies. So we go etc /host, and we're asked for a password because we're using sudo. And we can see in here it says localhost and it says Ubuntu 1. So we're going to change that. In our case, because it's going to run Apache web server, we're going to type in web server. And I'm going to just consistently keep everything lowercase. So web server. And you can see down here at the bottom of the screen that we have exit, write out, etc. So if we go with your control key and X, you'll be prompted for the file because your control X is exiting. And we're going to say, yes, you want to save that? Yes, I do. And the file to save is the host file, and we press enter and we're out there. And if we went back into it again, we'd see where the information is still there. So our control X will take us back out. The second file we want to edit is host name. And you can see it says Ubuntu 1, and we just simply change that to web server. Okay, and we can exit out there and save our changes. So control X, yes, save changes, and enter, and that saves it out. If we do a reboot, we can let VirtualBox restart, and when it restarts, we should find that our computer name is now called web server. So we'll just let that run in the background. And we can see that our computer name is now called web server. Another command that we can use quite extensively with Ubuntu 16 onward, and one that we used earlier on, was hostname ctl. But first of all, let us log in. So we're still logging in as user1. And our usual password. And if you remember, we typed in sudo hostname ctl, and I'm using sudo because I'm going to look at making some changes. It asks for the password, You don't need a sudo just to get the information, but you can see it says web server. Okay, and if we typed in sudo hostname ctl set dash hostname and we call it web server 1, we should now find that when we go to edit those files that we looked at earlier on, the host file, okay, we can see web server, and if we exit out there, and the other file was the host name file, we can see that says web server 1. So we've made one change as such there itself. So I'm going to exit out of that and I'm going to do a reboot. And when it restarts, you can see that it says web server 1 login. So we're going to go log in as user 1 and we'll put our password in there. And we have all that in there, and it says web server 1. And again, if we go back on our previous commands, there's the hostname file. We'll put in our password because we're running sudo. It says web server 1. We exit out of that. And we go back into our host name, our host file. We can see this one still says web server, so we're going to change that to web server 1. However, because I don't, and we would save that change as well. However, I want to keep my server called web server, so I'm going to exit out of that. I'm not going to save any changes, and I'm going to run my host name control again, and I'm going to call it web server. Set host name web server. Okay, and basically, if we do a reboot on that, so now that we're back restarted with our web server, we are going to look at enabling the root account with a password and also renaming the existing user 1 to a username called webadmin. So first of all, to get our root account available to us, again, we're using our sudo, and we are basically typing passwd, and by default that will allow us to change our password, but in this case we want to change the password to root, so it's passwd root. We'll ask for a password for our sudo. Oh, it would be handy if we logged in first, wouldn't it? User 1. And now that we're logged in, now we can go sudo passwd root, and it says the sudo password for user 1, which is fine. That's our normal password. It now asks for enter a new Unix password. So this is going to be password going to be used for the root account. So we enter the password in there and we confirm it. And basically we just updated our password. We're now going to go exit, which will log us out. We're going to log in as root and put in our new password for root. And now we're logged in, we should see a couple of differences. First of all, we are now logged in as root as opposed to user 1. So it's root at web server : tilde, and we have a hash instead of the $, showing us that we are logged in as root. We are now going to make a change to the user account so that we want to rename user 1 to an account called webadmin. And for that to happen, we are going to type in chmod -l. And again, remember, you can always run the man pages. Just type in man space chmod, and in fact, it's not chmod, it's usermod -l. And we are going to go with the new name and the old name. So the new name we're going to type in here is webadmin, and the old name was user 1. And we exit out of here, and we log in as webadmin, and password that we had for user 1. We are now logged in as webadmin at web server, and that has sufficed then to allow us to create the root account with a password, log in as root account, log out as root account, rename the server name and rename the username. In the next video, we'll look at installing Apache Web Server.